Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, welcome to Future Proof, the podcast where we are discussing with founders, CEOs, and leaders how to work smarter using AI, automation, and technology. So if you're looking to future-proof your business, you're definitely in the right place. Before we jump into today's episode, for anybody that wants to see how AI fits in their business, we do free 30-minute calls. There'll be links in the show notes. We're happy to talk to you. No pitch. We're just looking to help. Anyway, let's jump into today's episode. Excited to have Kevin Hall from CDL Life. Kevin, thank you for joining us and spending some time with us.
Absolutely. I appreciate the invite to join you.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so let's dive right in. Let's talk about your background. You've had a number of exits in both marketing and in SaaS, and I think we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, sure. I started my career as a software engineer. I thought I was going to be programming for the rest of my life, but a turn happened when I was 24. One of my mentors, a guy I really respected, came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about starting a digital marketing agency?" So here I'm a techie, knew nothing about marketing. Said, "Heck yeah, let's go." I was 24 years old.
Why not?
24 years old. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Let's get into it. But this was back in the day. Keep in mind that companies were deciding, should I spend money on newspaper or this internet thing?
Right.
It was a minute ago.
Yeah,
for sure. But at the end of the day, we grew that. I knew nothing about marketing, but what I did know was about data, tracking, digital, right?
And
ROI.
a lot of people did not know back then
That's right.
any of that.
That's exactly right. So some really cool things, limited to bandwidth. How do we track, get this internet thing going? So some really cool things happened there. Ended up merging that. First exit was merging that in with a full service traditional ad PR firm, right? That didn't really have the
digital piece, right?
The digital piece to it, right? And that was when things were like integrated marketing communications was coming out.
Yeah.
Some of those terms back in, I'm sure you remember those.
Oh, yeah.
Days. But had a great run there, kind of moved over to be a managing partner in that agency, ended up selling that to a private equity group. And then I wanted to get back into technology. Like that was where I started, right? And so convinced that PE firm to invest in a SaaS startup. And they did it. They said yes. And we had a wonderful run around SaaS. This was in business resilience, crisis management.
Wow, crisis management. Okay.
There's a linked story in there. It wasn't just quite a big departure, but had a great run there. Ended up selling that to private equity, and then it was kind of like, all right, I've sold the baby.
SaaS what was SaaS like when you did that? Was it as prevalent or
it was coming off of the days of the enterprise software, you install it on the servers, maybe host it for them in a rack somewhere.
Right.
And it was in the process of moving to SaaS. Our original, the original version was actually a hosted web application, right? That was really what it was.
Right.
And then we transformed it in the years that we had that to a pure SaaS play at the end of the day. We ended up wrapping that up in 2019-ish. So in that 2010 to 2019 sort of time frame is when that enterprise software to SaaS migration happened.
Yeah,
right?
that whole 10-year period for sure was
Yeah. So after doing that, I thought I wanted to. I knew I didn't want to do another startup. Those are very taxing, very difficult to do. But I knew I loved growing. Yeah, I knew I loved growing companies, knew I loved scaling, working with people. So I dove into being an operating partner within private equity and did that for a bit. Some interesting, there's different types of private equity, different levels of private equity.
No doubt about it.
Some are bad.
Yeah, at different stages, right? You come in the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. So that said, probably didn't go as well as I wanted it to be honest with you. But it's learning, moving on, and then kind of moved into an advisory role with a couple of tech companies, and then it kind of leads me today where I talking about private equity, found a really, really awesome PE firm focused in the logistics space, and had a really cool opportunity to join a company that was on the verge of a lot of growth, a lot of opportunity. Just need to kind of bring it together.
Right.
Awesome team, just a very unique kind of mix of background between online media, community, and SaaS and technology and AI. And so it was a great opportunity to dive into that. And that's where I'm at today.
Awesome, awesome. So talk to us about CDL Life, and then and your platform, and so for everybody out there that is listening and wants to understand what that's all about.
Yeah, the CDL Life started really as a way to build an online community of truck drivers.
Yeah.
Very unique, right? Very online community of truck drivers, because that's one of the probably the highest velocity of recruiting there is in the truck driving space. I mean, people
Yeah.
talk about healthcare and all of these, but if you look at the volume that has to go through truck driving or logistics companies for truck drivers, it's actually the largest volume that is out there. Coming off of COVID, there was a significant driver shortage. So, didn't have baby formula on the shelves, right? And that's the impact of not having truck drivers in the economy. So CDL Life has two pieces to it. The first part is it's the largest and most engaged online audience for truck drivers. So have a social aspect of it, have news and publication related to the community. And then on the other side, we have a SaaS technology, AI-driven platform that basically helps companies recruit and build a better connection with these drivers over the time. So it has AI built in from a programmatic platform, from ad marketing and advertising, all the way through to communications, to tracking what they're doing, to communicating with them, to ultimately convincing them or making a match to that company for hire.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's funny. A month or so ago, we had a marketing firm that kind of backed into truck driver recruiting. And he was talking about it, and he said that, it's very an underserved market. So I love what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's such high velocity that really the recruiting process is more akin to consumer marketing, sales and marketing, as it is to any other type of recruiting that's out there, right? Like, it's not like, we have jobs posted and you go through the process and you may hire, one or two people a month or whatever from that perspective. The engineers, very unique. But this is like hundreds of thousands of drivers being recruited in the process at any given point. And it's just a lot of throughput and a lot of opportunity for improvement. It's still sort of antiquated in terms of some of the technology and enablement for these teams to just be better at the end of the day.
Oh, that's great. And within the platform, are the drivers all connected with each other, or is this a way to connect them with the trucking companies, or all of the above?
All the above, yeah. So CDL Life is really the intention of that is the people who live the CDL world, right? The life that's within that. So that part is all about community. It's all about really being authentic and organic within that space. So you go out and you can search CDL Life, and you'll see we have a mobile app. It's kind of like Facebook for truck drivers. We have a news publication that's everything that truck drivers would want to know. There's some games, things like that, just to engage the community. I mean, we've had people do meetups, just to connect on the road.
Yeah.
They nurture some of the younger truck drivers. But that's our publishing, that's our community and publishing side. And the other part is really the SaaS technology, AI-driven solution that can tap into that audience, right, for driving or for drivers, but could connect into really the world in terms of attracting or sourcing these applicants, finding these people, because it's such a competitive space, right? There's if you go out to the job market and you see CDL Life or CDL jobs that's out there, it's just a sea of sameness. Like, it's hard for that driver to choose a career. Yeah, and that's the one thing that we're able to help companies do.
No, that's awesome, Kevin. And again, I think it's such a unique use case, because I feel like we've talked to different companies about the B2B to C kind of, right? I feel like you're more B to C to B, right? And that's really, really interesting, because there's only a handful of industries that applies to, but it's a very unique thing, because you're taking marketing principles from the consumer side and connecting them to a community. And then then you connect the community to the business side, which is the trucking companies. That's a very, very unique model. And I think I understand the challenges associated with it. So, because consumer marketing is tougher for sure, than B2B marketing. So I definitely can see that the programmatic aspect that you've built in is a very cool feature.
Yeah, we were doing, it's machine learning was where it started in terms of the bidding, the management, and optimizations, and all of those things from there. So we were kind of doing programmatic in truck driver recruiting before it was even a known thing within the space. And we've moved that into now, you get these people into the process, the journey that they have as a recruit, an applicant. The journey is quite frankly, pretty bad, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's up on the shoulders of recruiters who are trying to call as many as they can. They can't get a hold of truck drivers. Truck drivers are on the road. They have certain hours they can talk. It's just raw with all these inefficiencies and problems. And so we have come in, I know there's this wave of doing like AI bots and AI calls. We still believe that truck drivers want to speak to humans. If they're making a choice about their career and their life, right? So why should I leave that up to a bot? So we've matched AI, which is really tapping into the mind of the person and where they've been and what our goal is for the next phase and how we can keep them engaged, what they're interested in, what they're not interested in, what their hot buttons are. And we match that with both automated technology like retargeting and messaging and things like that, but also human live call centers, right? So the script that a call center person gets is driven specifically from the AI, but they're talking to a human. So we're kind of combining the best of both worlds because, again, at the end of the day, we're talking about people making decisions about their careers, not just trying to buy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think I feel like the art of where you bring AI into a product or a platform is kind of what you were just hitting on. Where do you layer it in to take out the inefficiencies, but keep the human element where it's most needed? And you're right. If a truck driver wants to talk to a human, that's the most important. So you can build the solutions around that. And I love that you're doing that through retargeting and probably follow up messaging and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, everybody talks about AI. It's like, hey, just throw AI at it and let it try to solve the problems. But again, we're still talking in situations, we're still talking about humans and human decisions and human lives and all of those things, right? And so taking the best of what it provides, which is building efficiencies, enabling people, recruiting teams, executives, whoever that is, enabling them to be better than what they can be on their own, and then maximizing those two connection points. Right?
I couldn't agree more. And Kevin, a couple of things I've learned through talking to so many founders and execs and really experts in the space is two key concepts keep coming out to us. Is one is that AI right now where it's at, the best thing you can say is they're great digital coworkers. They can make a human employee 2 to 5 times better because it takes away and it helps their job become better because it takes away the mundane and all that, right? But the other thing that you really hit on, and I want to keep emphasizing this, is a term that I've just heard recently. It's called human in the loop, right? And when you start to design your workflows and figure out where AI fits in, where the human in the loop is not only monitoring and making sure that's right, but where that human needs to be the most impactful, right? So for you, right, when you were talking about that one use case, when when the trucker wants to talk to somebody on the phone. But I think when you have those two lenses, when you're designing something, I think you wind up with a pretty good solution because you're not trying to replace people, right? Which again, I know everybody's fearful of that, but I never think that's the right thing. I think it's where do you use it to make things better?
Yeah,
how do
absolutely.
you see it?
Yeah, no, look, I think there are some things where I would just prefer to interact with AI and no human, right?
Yeah.
Some very low end things,
stuff, right?
Purchase, I want to try to figure something. I don't want to talk to a salesperson. I don't want to go through that whole hoopla. And sometimes AI is more efficient for that. But there's still impactful things that we do that are decisions that we make that are again impactful to our lives that I don't want to rely on AI. I don't want to rely on that to make sure that it's accurate or they have their elements correct or they have, whatever those models are set up correctly or that it's learning from the right thing. But yeah, so I think the mix of both of those worlds is still where we are. Who knows what the future holds, how aggressive that will get or impactful it'll get down the road. But yeah, I think right now that's the combination. There's a big wave in this space to do all chat bots and AI bots and how more efficient they are. And they probably could do way more work than an individual. But again, at the end of the day, this person's making a decision about their career, and there's got to be that level of interaction.
Right, and I totally agree. I think maybe some pre-screening stuff, yeah, okay, right. But when you actually want to get down to decision making, I think that's where the human in the loop term comes into play. I think that's the right thing to do. So as you start to look down the road, right, and you've been involved in a couple different exits. Now you're deep into SaaS. Where do you see AI and automation and data? And again, you've been playing with this stuff longer than a lot of folks. Where do you see the impact over the next 12 to 18 months? I know because Sam Altman had come out and said, we're a decade or maybe less, but definitely a decade away from, where AI really takes foothold and understand. So, and again, I'm not trying to talk time frames, but I really think that we know that landscapes are changing fast, but we can get a view at least maybe not 5 years out, but maybe 18 months out, right? 12 to 18 months out.
Yeah.
What do you see, Kevin? And where do you see the impact?
Yeah, I go back to every stint that I've had is really about focusing in on a problem and trying to find a solution. I mean, I remember, like, for example, should they make a decision to put money in newspaper advertising or online? Right. It's kind of at each interval. At one point, it was moving from enterprise software to SaaS, and
right.
that. AI is obviously a game changer. I mean, there's no question whatsoever about that. We're in that trial and error phase right now where everybody's kind of throwing AI at everything to see what actually sticks and what applies, how much they can push it. And the cool thing about that is that leads to innovation, right? So there's going to be things that come out in 18 months that was based upon all of this stuff that people are trying
doing now, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about it. But for right now, I believe it is making it easier for humans to interact with AI to do their regular jobs more and efficiently. And that adoption rate, I still think the adoption rate is really low in terms of a day-to-day person out there, that how they use it. I mean, just for me, like I don't do Google search. Hopefully not an advertiser with you, but I basically just ask ChatGPT a question. I don't have to read through all the results. I don't have to do that. It just gives me a summary, and then Google has that at the top now. And so seeing that,
and what you just said, Kevin, is probably the highest adoption rate. So for the first time ever last quarter, ChatGPT interactions AI was more than Google search. Like that, it's unheard of, right? You would have thought. But you're right. Other than that, the adoption rate is pretty low.
Yep. And so applying AI to existing applications, we use a CRM, for example, here from a sales and marketing perspective, and it has AI built into it. It's not great, to be honest with you, because you ask questions, it doesn't know. So the maturing of that, I think, is really the next thing we're going to see over the next 12 months. And that will lead us to a point where people feel confident in the use of AI, tapping into that existing technology to really make their life easier, to have a conviction that it's actually reliable. And I think there's still some question about that when you use it. And even, you go out and do ChatGPT. They got my son's math problem wrong, right, the other day. It's still some of those.
Yeah, there's still hallucinations for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you being a data guy, right, from the jump, right? There's one of my companies, we own a data company, right? So to me, that's the one that really seems to, I scratch my head, right? Because I feel like AI can crunch data and make really good sense and use of it better than any. And I feel like that's one of the most underutilized use cases. How do you see it being a data guy?
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, I'm no longer doing pivot tables. I'm loading it into AI to have it tell me the analytics and build the charts for me, right? I don't have to go through.
Phenomenal use case right there. Like, for everybody watching this, like, come on, no one likes to do pivot tables, right?
Why do I need to build a chart, right? I just go in and ask it a few questions. Now, again, I still think it's got some improvement areas, right? It has to understand the data and the connections. And you have to give it very precise questions and very precise things about the data to make sure that it's accurate. But, the other part that I think is going to start to come in is that the automation of AI, of actually going in and looking at the data and projecting or alerting or just on a regular basis, right? Instead of me uploading something and asking questions, is more of hey, it's just built into the inherent concept of the data that's streaming in every day.
Right.
There's in sales and marketing, there's a change in somebody's role that's impacted by an opportunity that we're dealing with that is with a person who's no longer assigned to the account, right? So it's like this, making those connections and alerting me. I mean, that would be huge, right? To do those types of things. Not quite there yet.
Yeah. I could see that coming over the next 12 to 18 months for sure.
Absolutely.
Like getting better, right? That's every time they roll something out, you're like, okay, we're inching closer to some of that.
Yeah. Just think of the changes recently related to its memory. And when you first started using it, you wouldn't remember the few things back, but now you can just go on to a whole conversation with it and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting better, right? No doubt about it. Where I see, and I want to get your opinion on this, where I see the big adoption trend starting to tick up is when people start to see the workflows and the agents in the agentic AI, when they start talking to each other down a workflow. To me, I feel like that's when people will start to understand the impact that it can have for taking the inefficiencies out of processes, internal processes.
Yeah, when it sends me a note and says, "Hey, Kevin, here's the thing that you should do because of what's happening, that what I've picked up in the data,"
Right.
like that's when it's going to go for me, and I'm like, I'm going to turn a lot over of my life over to AI, right? From that
Absolutely.
perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the part where it's not, there's some technology out there related to that. We actually use that's part of one of the AI components with our platform is to really watch these applicants of what they're doing, what they're interacting with, and figuring out what the best next step is. We call it best
Yeah.
next step technology, right?
Yeah.
What's the best thing for you as a specific applicant, your mindset, what you've been through,
Yeah.
what would convince you to take whatever that next step is in that hiring process, or weed you out and say, it's not even worth spending the time on.
Yeah, I think that personalization, that level of personalization, is something that we've never had. I think we've been moving from that one to many. We're migrating down to one to one, right? I think AI can get us a lot closer. It's just we're not quite there yet, but you're right. When you can start to do some of that and call that stuff out, that's definitely a needle mover, I think.
Yeah, it's thinking for me, right?
Yeah.
All I have to do is take the action and be the front person for it. So it's not directly from the AI.
So you see this? I mean, the cool part is you've been entrenched with PE for a while, right? I feel like that this will pivot the PE model going forward. Do you see it as well?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, there's so much money just in playing in AI right now that's being thrown out in in VC and all the way through. Just playing with it, just to see what happens. And one of them takes off. That's all that they need from that perspective, for sure. But yeah, I think that it's maybe some smaller deals, right? Again, that testing to see what's going to happen over the next 20. Really, we're talking about the next 2 to 3 years, where a lot of this is going to be testing and trial and erroring from some, and then you'll start to see some of these companies start to pop
emerge out of nowhere, and
the key question, I think, in private equity is, that coming off the investments in SaaS, and now that's probably not the hottest investment today, right? And so, how do you take those SaaS companies? PE is all about taking a company and transforming it, right?
Right.
Operationalizing it, all of those things. So, how do you take a SaaS company that has a really great product offering and following and AI it, right? That's the sort of transformations of companies that you'll start to see within and are doing today in terms of PE.
I totally agree. The other thing I can see is, I know PE is really hot and heavy in the SMB market into portfolioizing service-based companies, medical practices, right? Because they can figure out how to AI it and drive the economies of scale by having 30, 40, 50 of those companies and operate the same. And when you try to take the costs out of the operational piece, which are, at the SMB market is very, very heavy in their inefficiency, right? And so I see PE doing more things like that, moving away from, I'm not saying moving away from SaaS, but pivoting to some other areas where AI can make a big impact on the bottom line.
Yeah, I saw several colleagues there in the recruiting space that for execs and PE.
Right.
Their hottest item right now is the operating partner related to AI, right? So somebody that can come in and help operationalize AI within their portfolio operations, whether it's a SaaS company or a service company. I think it's a great call out. At the end of the day, they're by implementing those operations, and AI is the big key to that. That they can turn a company and transform it into
because and you go back to what your platform does for CDL drivers, right? If you think about those small businesses, one of their biggest problems is recruiting, right? And staff turnover and all that kind of stuff. So if you can do that, so I understand how the model's shifting, just kind of watching it, but that's just scratching the surface, right? PE is very, very smart in what they do, and they're not the only industries they're going to be in. So my other one is to get your take is the mid-market, right? Right. I mean, you're playing probably in the mid-market at this point. Where do you see? Because I feel like a lot of players could come out of the mid-market, and a lot of players can get squashed in the mid-market because you're either going to, like you said, accelerate because you've adopted it and you figured out how to move faster. Or you're going to have a lot of people that are entrenched in the old school way, and there's going to be companies that come out of nowhere. How do you see that? Do you think I'm in the ballpark there?
There's still companies that haven't even considered, AI. Like I would say, the vast majority of them are still asking, again, going back to, should we invest in newspaper dollars in advertising, or should we, right? It's that same kind of situation today. It's just in a different world. We've seen a lot of the companies in the middle space having some initiatives, which was basically their execs are saying, hey, I don't know what this AI thing is going to be, but let's start using it. Let's, within your department, find ways to execute upon it. And again, what that does is it breeds trial and error, breeds innovation, breeds ideation.
The good part is it's not expensive to do trial and error, right? That's the cool part.
That's right. Yep. And brings out anything that's in your area for opportunities that maybe we can execute within your organization. And so that's where we've actually been introduced, because we offer an AI solution that into a space where change is probably not a good word, right? So they have sort of set in their ways, bringing in new technology and new innovations. It's kind of, it's always a scary thing for a lot of groups within that. But I do think that you're going to see companies in that middle space find a way to capitalize AI within their specific area that they own. And that's really where they're going to take up into that next stratosphere, right? Because they just set themselves apart in terms of operations and efficiencies and the execution within that.
I think that would be really, really fun and interesting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's always fun, right? Technology, every era is kind of the same thing, right? It's like people say it can't be done, never thought of it, and then you see something pop and then it just starts to explode from there.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of transformations and the early adopters that get it right, are companies that come out of nowhere and you're like, wow, how did that happen? But really, they just pushed their chips all in, right, on that. I think you're going to see some of that happen. All right. So last question is, which I always love, is tell me something that you, as a leader, use AI, right? Do you think other leaders, in your everyday, to make yourself more efficient, do you think other founders and execs would find interesting?
I actually use it to generate an idea of the day, like helping me just creatively every morning. Because, you can go in, I thrive in teams. I thrive to go brainstorm with teams. And sometimes in a remote world, you don't really have that, right? And so I use it to, one of the problems I'm interacting with, I'll go into ChatGPT, some other tools that I use, and just interact with it and start to just see those cycles move. I use it for all the common ones, right? The data and the charting, like I mentioned, all of those. But that's just something unique that it helps. It's like you've got this own personal brainstormer there to interact with on certain topics. And, doesn't make me look like a fool in front of the team sometimes when I throw out these bad ideas and crazy ideas.
I love it, though. Idea of the day. That's not a bad idea, because you think about it. It's also almost, what do we used to call them? The poke the bear questions. But this is the idea of the day is almost like the teen challenge, right? Like bring it to a meeting and the brainstorm session. I think that's a great idea. And we're getting so many good ones that come out from just that question. It's really fun to send those out and see what people start to play with and come back with. But Kevin, thank you for spending time with us today. I think we're gonna have to check back with you here in 6 or 9 months and just see how things are going, because it's just really fun to see all the innovation that's happening and the growth. And then you're definitely sitting on a growth platform.
I appreciate it. Great to chat with you today, and look forward to chatting again soon.
Yeah. So for if there's anybody that's interested in CDL drivers, I know we're going to put all the links, but how do they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, CDLLife.com, largest, most engaged online audience, truck drivers and news in the space, and CDLConnect.io for the SaaS and AI solutions that we talked about for recruiting today.
Awesome. We'll have all those links, below in the episode. But thank you, Kevin, for just sharing your insights, and best of luck. We can't wait to watch the great things happen in CDL Life.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.